right? So like he didn't say this, but I pictured the sense of like have like a sense of dis-ease or a headache or something, and you respond, you do these things, but that the brain could then be regulating the systems here in a way that like, you know, allows you to control something like a factory in a bigger way. And now he didn't talk about this, but if you then go off of that and you're immortal, and if this kind of thing were possible, and you bring up the concept of the metaverse or even just connected systems, now you're just sort of like, you know, it's sort of like the Neo situation potentially, where like, what does it mean to understand all that? In a sense that isn't this quite logical, like data-driven thing. It's more like part of your being, and maybe that's like a kind of a sci-fi and potentially like understandable like form of like elevated consciousness. You know, but I don't know. I was just thinking about it, and the reason I thought of Miyazaki is that, you know, but even before you were talking about it today, you know, I know that he is interested in the concept of implants, right? And that's just like the very forefront, the chip that can open the door by touching your hand to it. But, you know, eventually it will become more the kind of things I think we're, you know, right now.
I'd like to make one comment before my Oculus lifespan comes to an abrupt end, and which is going to happen in probably like 10 seconds. But I think the trickiest part of the question is the word you. Like, what does it really mean? Because are we talking about a soul? Are we talking about a body? I guess in this case, we're talking about a body. But if we're talking about your body lasts forever, what exactly are you in that context? And do you last forever?
Well, what is consciousness exactly?
Yeah, we go back to the consciousness
because
question.
We don't know that.
Yeah, good.
Every time, because we don't know. Yeah.
Because we don't know that, it's hard to answer the question.
That's part of answering the question, I guess. Yeah. Can I drop a couple of words too? Yeah, Chester, and like everybody who's speaking, I agree with you with these points that sometimes people find it useless maybe discussing these, you know, philosophical questions and thinking about eternity. But I think whereas we like it same as here, it's part of answering the question. Like imagining things in my perception are like training. I call these things mind experiments. Like I give my students some questions, for example, for them to practice their English. I give them some questions like, imagine your life like an alternative lifeline where you have like one minor change, like for example, like your gender. Change your gender and try to imagine the lifespan that you would have alternatively by this age. And what would you do? And it seems very easy at first, but I tell them, like, just sink into that state and try to really, really imagine that, because that's fun. The process itself is fun because you expand your brain. You train your brain to imagine some things that you never have, you know, take time to do. Like imagining like space and time, like our planet existed for 4.5 billion years. You think, oh, that's a good number. But when you try to really stop and imagine those things, like really feel them as if you feel one day or 1 week, that's a good practice for your brain, I think. So yeah, that's mind experiment.
It's a good way to explore your personal values too.
True.
Put yourself in a different context, and all of a sudden, you know, you're skipping by.
I think that's why a lot of us are here today to click enter and come in here and discuss these things. Not everybody does. Not everybody does one of those things. That's fine. But as I was saying, I don't know if you know, it's a big, well, still am kind of thing, a big video gamer. There was a video game on the Xbox 360 when Microsoft tried to break the Japanese market.
Can y'all hear him?
Yeah, I can't hear him.
Unmute yourself.
I'm back.
Lost you.
Hey, nice.
Hey, Electro.
Yeah,
I have to say that all again now.
no,
I was just going to say...
Amplify yourself too, Chester.